So that's the moment that you have to say, I don't know how. But the fact that I don't know how doesn't have to deter you, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to take that gap and we're going to make this work. So that's economy of faith. There's no reason for you to believe, but you have to believe.
Welcome to another edition of Expedition Business, where we talk to inspiring South African entrepreneurs about the highs and lows of their business journey and how on earth they manage to keep the flame of business adventure burning. Because facing your day with a smile is sometimes the toughest thing you have to do. My name is Christel Roslev-Venter, your host and the one lucky enough to be talking to Gerhard Moolman, mega adventurer and entrepreneur. But before I introduce Gerhard to you, I would like to remind you to please subscribe, like, comment, and share this podcast with as many of your friends and family as possible. Without your help, we cannot continue to share the amazing stories of our South African entrepreneurs. But back to why we are here today. Gerhard Moolman is the founder and CEO of ALTSA, the leading commercial and industrial LED lighting solutions provider in Africa, as well as the largest lighting replacement company in Africa. But as I say in the commercials, that's not all. In December 2024, Gerhard undertook a solo crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, covering over 4,000 kilometers in his rowing surf ski. The journey was first of its kind and took 37 days to complete. Gerhard, before we get into the business side of things, how did it happen that you started with all these adventures of yours?
It's in your blood. I've seen many adventurers and expeditionists, and all of these guys, they've got it in their blood. And so I think there's a lot of people that's got it in their blood that does not go that way, and probably because they're too scared, or life doesn't present them with opportunities. So from young age, I love to run over mountains, be on rivers, and whatever brings me out there and give me a little bit of challenge. So my first very big expedition was in 2002. So I took a surf ski and I paddled from Cape Town, and I paddled all the way on the east coast of Africa up to a place called Lamu, which is just south of Somalia, the northern coast of Kenya. What an incredible expedition. So obviously went most of South African coast, the Mozambican coast. Mozambique is a very, very long coastline, probably 2,007 kilometers. 2,700. It takes you a long time. It took me nearly 3 months. And then Tanzania and Kenya. It took me half a year and hard work. But what an incredible opportunity. So learned a lot about life and myself. Then after that, for a long time, I was yearning to do more adventure and expedition stuff, and I eventually decided I'm going to do this cross Atlantic expedition. In the meantime, I did smaller things, just week kind of expeditions, Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion, some very nice cycle tours. But the cross Atlantic was something that came up as a proper expedition. I would never be the first guy There was a German guy that did it in the very early 1900s already. And subsequently, there were dozens of people that has done it. So I'm not unique there. What I wanted to do, I wanted to be the fastest man. So breaking the fastest man-powered record across the Atlantic was a big thing for me. Started off with a guy by the name of Quentin Rutherford, that he was adamant we were going to go on a normal surf ski with a boat support. So that was going to be incredibly tough, but we thought, we could do it in 25 days. Having a supported expedition is very expensive because you have to have a yacht and you have to have a crew, and so that's expensive stuff. And my support crew then at one stage said, look, this is a very bad idea. And immediately I started thinking of ALTSA. So in 22, my company also sponsored Richard Kohler to paddle in ALTSA across the Atlantic, from Cape Town to Brazil. So I immediately started thinking in terms of ALTSA. So I went down to Cape Town and I got into ALTSA and I took it for trail run on the ocean. And I realized, this thing is not a great thing for paddling. It's just too heavy. And I started putting in a rowing mechanism. Anyway,
So does it make
answer.
you faster so that you don't have to do all the rowing yourself?
Well, the rowing mechanism is you're doing all the rowing yourself, but it's just the reason why rowing is better than paddling for such a heavy thing is your legs is just so much stronger than your arms. So when I started off doing a gym exercise with my legs, I could only push leg press 120 kilograms, and I couldn't even get to 50. So after a year, I managed to do 400 times 50 leg presses. So, I managed to get my legs very strong. Your legs are just so much stronger. If you compare that to your arms, you do, I can't even do 50 presses of 40 kilograms like this. So, my legs are literally 10 times stronger than my arms. So you're not paddling only with your arms, but you're paddling with your whole body. But still,
Okay.
if you want to do that, rowing is the right thing. And so I converted ALTSA into a rowing vessel.
Which makes it slightly easier. But Gerhard, a question that I have is obviously in between all of these expeditions of yours, you've got a business to run. How on earth do you manage keeping everything together?
That's you on the money. That's $1 million question. So not easy at all. So the business that I've got is a medium-sized lighting business. It's busy. To do lights is not easy. I mean, you literally have to sell thousands and thousands of lights every month to pay for the bills. So there's about 60 people directly employed, and on contract basis probably another 150 people. So it's quite a big show. Business is not what it should be. We're battling, so I'm under pressure, and I literally had to fly jet to Cape Verde, get into the boat, to race across the ocean, fly back, get back in front of my computer. And even that, I had to make sure it was December, which is off time. I had to have Starlink with me, so I was on my laptop every day and see that the things are running okay. Over and above paddling, I had to, take care of my business and making calls and steering things in the right direction. Um, so it definitely wasn't easy. To my credit, or not, um, I I work too hard, spend too much time uh, working. Um, in other words, I'm not balanced enough. So this was really great to do this thing, and I learned a hell of a lot about just everyday concepts of driving a business, and what it the characteristics that it takes to really get successfully.
Okay. Um, Gerhard, if you could choose to not be busy with business and just be doing your adventures every day, would that be an option?
Absolutely, absolutely. So um, something that I've got. Uh, Exploring is an incredible thing for me, So um, you could paddle the Arctic, you can paddle around the world. Uh, but to be fairly honest, what is interesting about the sea is the nature and the birds and the fishes. And I was very fortunate on the Atlantic to have an absolute abundance of that. But what is more important is civilizations, uh, mainland. So a bicycle is a wonderful thing, you can use there. So you can see there is history and
Mm-hmm.
very interesting stuff lying in civilizations that's maybe today still there or not there, but it's things that you can discover,
Mm,
and so that really interests me. So you can go right across Africa, South America, or Asia, and discover these types of stories.
mm.
And these massive stories to be told. Anyway, so that's a personal interest of mine. Lost civilizations, if you want to call it that way.
Okay. So, how much time does it take to prepare for all these adventures? Because obviously, you have to spend time in the gym or wherever you do all your exercises. It doesn't happen on its own. How do you fit spending time exercising, preparing in with your daily business routine?
It takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of money. Let's take cross Atlantic. So, firstly, the vessel. Just to build the rowing mechanism in, took a team of people, professional engineer and other people. They all had to be paid, it had to be designed, it had to be built in. Once we've got this thing built in, it wasn't working. It took me a year. I had to bring Aussie up, and it's a big boat to pull by road. I had to bring it to Johannesburg from Cape Town. I've put it in the water by Emmarentia Dam where I paddle. Um, I had to take it in and out probably 20 times. That by itself is a massive job. Um, and only after a year, very shortly before I sent it in a container, I got it right. Over and above that, the food, um, the preparation for myself, food. You got to go to dietitians. You have to buy the stuff. You have to pack the stuff. Body preparation. Go to gym for a year. Mental preparation. I didn't have proper time for that, so I
Uh-huh.
kind of lost. I kind of lost the program there, and I had to rebuild it on tour. So it's not a cycle tour where you oil your bicycle and you put it on a plane to Mozambique and carry on from there. It's it's taking a lot of time and planning. And, you know, if you haven't been there or haven't done a similar expedition, it takes a lot of effort.
Hmm. And where do you have time left for business?
It's strenuous to say the least. I'm fortunate I don't have a big family, but I've got a girlfriend, and as you know, relationships takes time.
Hmm.
So I've got to work very, very carefully with my off time, you know, and you know I have to please explain quite a lot, you know. So um, it's perhaps not a good idea for you to be talking about the next expedition right now.
So, you have to manage the girlfriend, you have to manage the employees, and somewhere your bank account needs to be filled to pay for all of these things. How on earth do you
Correct.
manage it?
Well, you need to have good people, you know, and you need to be able to trust people to do the job that you've employed them to do. The reality is businesses is a chaotic environment if you look inside. And you know, from the moment 7 o'clock in the morning that you get in front of your laptop uh, until you close at 11 o'clock at night, there's a lot of things that goes right and there's a lot of things that goes wrong, and that's any businessman.
Mm.
uh, you know, I think uh, the dreams of Elon Musk of having a great idea and yet just things happen, you know, and then he quickly designs rockets and then it goes and it's all fine. You know, even Elon Musk said, you know, being in the leadership of a business is dealing with the problems. So my job is to deal with the bad stuff mostly in the business and see how we can mitigate risk and make right what is wrong. Uh, and through all of that, we have to make money. We're fortunate that we are basically in the energy industry. So lighting is energy. You're consuming energy, and if you're using good technology like LED, you're saving a lot of energy. So uh, we managed to do some good business by um, putting new technology into the place of old technology, and that kind of pays for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wouldn't say that the lighting business is easy business. It is a congested space. It's got a limited size to it, so everybody inside the spot of lighting suppliers are getting squeezed. There's a lot of companies that do not, lighting companies that do not make it past 5 years. There's a lot of them. There's only a handful that can say they've been around for 15 years. And that very fact tells you that it's not an easy space. And most certainly for for us, it has not been. But you know, technology is on our side, and we have to use that to make the world a better place. And I think
Mm.
if you in the business of taking technology and using that to make the world a better place, it will naturally propel you forward.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you can mitigate any problem that comes your way, that you never have those feelings that you just want to run away.
We all have our days where we want to run away. Yeah, we all have that moment that let's run away. So um, I think life is really about the moments that you want to run away, and not really so much about. It's good to celebrate, but the forming and the deciding factors in life is where we feel really pressured. So I have coined a phrase in my last expedition, economy of faith.
Okay.
That's the moment where things go so badly wrong that there is no reason to believe that you're coming out of this alive, well, and happy. You're going to either die, you're going to suffocate, you're going to come out on the other side badly scarred. You know, you've got no way of thinking how this is going to work out well for you and the people around you. And there is a very small slither of light. But, you know, we kind of can choose to see that small slither of light or not, and then take the gap. So that's the moment that you have to say, I don't know how. But the fact that I don't know how doesn't have to deter you, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to take that gap and we're going to make this work. So that's economy of faith. There's no reason for you to believe, but you know, you have to believe. And quite often in life, you know, we don't have an option. You know, what does quitting mean? You know, what does quitting mean? Quitting is just not an option. You know, so um, you can take a different turn off. You can decide to close your business down. You can decide to make it into relationships. You can decide to sell something. So we've got options that we can execute, but uh, quit quit is actually an extremely dire term, and so you know. Um, I think the question is rather how strongly do you believe in the future? How bullish are you about the future? Um, so, and that's the world turns around being bullish or bearish. We've got that in markets, we've got that in businesses. And when you've got a business uh, and you don't have the ability to see a bright outcome, then it's difficult. Because what drives that business then? Um, if you don't have the ability to see the stars, uh, then you're not even going to hit the treetops. So, economy of faith is a big thing when you do expeditions, and it's a big thing in business.
Just thinking of your whole concept of economy of faith sort of reminds me of the fact that you come from a minister's household. Your dad was a minister many, many, many years ago before
Yeah,
he
that was it was
unfortunately
a
passed
it was a
away.
long time ago, but I grew up in a very religious house. Uh, and yeah, what a great privilege. It was a good place to grow up. Yeah.
Okay, but it sounds like you can go and inspire a whole congregation still today.
You know what? If you're a religious guy, or I'm a religious person. If you're a religious guy or a non-religious guy, we all believe in something. And so the themes that I've got as a religious guy is quite often relevant to people that believe in a different way from myself, you know. So, uh, so absolutely believe in divine intervention uh, in many ways, but a person that's non-religious, he would interpret that as the universe, uh, or just the world. He believes in the structure of the world, uh, and I would be able to argue with an atheist. I say, well, that structure in the world comes from a mighty being. And he says, no, no, that's just the world. But, a lot of these concepts of faith and belief and economy of faith, it's universal.
Mm, mm, okay. Gerhard, when you are out there on the water, to what extent does your faith help you to push through when you want to give up? Or is that not an option? So no one to come and collect you in the
Well,
middle of the ocean.
uh, maybe I can perhaps tell this story. So I got closer to South America, and I could see there was these massive gyres, which is the circular current. So you have to navigate very carefully through that. And I jumped into a specific place in one of these gyres, and it's basically a conveyor that carried me, and I got my calculations wrong. Um, and not to my credit, my boot Chris, who he's a very good scholarly engineer, and he helped me with navigation, and I probably didn't listen well enough,
Have you
and I
ever
got I
listened to
got
him?
no, I don't, and so I got into a wrong place. I got into a very wrong place, and on the evening of the 31st of December, he said to me, "You're not going to go to the end point." But what that actually meant at that point was, this expedition has failed. You're not going to finish. So the prognosis at that time was dire. I got myself in the wrong place, and I had to, instead of taking 2 or 3 sips of Jack Daniel's whiskey, I had to get out in the cold, get into the paddling seat, paddling right through the night. And I did my calculations, and it meant that I'm going to have to paddle for 3 days constantly. And during the second night, the interesting thing happened. I was just looking at the compass, and it had to be on north. If it goes a little bit more west, if I started going west, then it wasn't good enough. Then I had to paddle harder to keep it at north. And I heard this voice saying to me, "Don't worry, you will go to Cayenne. That's the place where I'm planning to go to.
Oh,
You
wow.
will go." And there was absolute no reason for me to believe that I'll be able to make it. It is physically impossible. I was blown over uh, 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 a current that I had to stay in by the wind, and I got in the wrong place. And I just so I heard this voice said, "Don't worry, you know, it's going to be fine." And what it actually meant for me, there was a great story uh, by Gary Kirsten, our
Mm-hmm.
cricketer,
Yes.
uh, before he hit his double century. Uh, it meant to me to surrender, because you're not in control. So, I'm a strong guy and I can paddle for 3 days, but there's a limit to what I can do. And so, that meant to surrender. And if you're a religious guy or not a religious guy, there's a place where you got to realize you're not in control. You got to surrender.
Mm,
And so that was from a religious point of view, that was a great lesson for me,
mm,
to understand what it means to surrender. And on day 3, something happened, just instantaneous. I managed to put a sea drone in, and I anchored myself in the water, and the wind didn't blow me anymore, and immediately my trajectory changed, and I managed to get to where I wanted to be. Uh, so that was a wonderful lesson for me in terms of economy of faith. So there was physically, it was totally impossible. It was just not. It was a David Goliath situation, and uh, uh, it worked out. It worked out well, you know. And so that same principle I apply in business now. You know, so you cannot see the outcome here. It's not going to be positive. We're going to crash. And but if you would surrender, uh, you could close your business, or you could turn off and say, look, I'm not going to be able to make it. Let's just stop this project. Let's not carry on. But there's points in life where you gotta have economy of faith. Obviously, your emotions tells you this is, I cannot carry on. Your emotions really plays on you, and I think that's also a point where you have to say, my faith and my goals and my objectives are bigger than my current emotions. Because we human beings, we make decisions and act quite often based on our emotions. So, we feel very bad about it. We feel totally demotivated and desperate. And how do you see the sun through the mist? You got to believe that the sun is there, and you got to carry on until the sun breaks through the mist, and then you can see. But that moment is the defining moment where you say, well, my faith is big enough to carry me through this critical threshold, carry me across the Rubicon.
And I suppose, and you sort of said it as well, bringing all those experiences back to your business is so vitally important. And it's sort of, I think, sells the fact that you're away so many days on all your adventures to make it okay, because you're bringing all this wisdom back to your business.
Yeah. I think it gives you a little bit more. If you do these type of expeditions, it gives you a couple of things: discipline, mental discipline. Because if you sit and row or paddle under very tough conditions for 8 hours a day, you got to discipline your mind. Because you could say, oh, the only things that you're experiencing is exhaustion and pain and boredom. Or you can manage and discipline your mind to think about positive things. So when you start mastering that, you realize that your mind and your thoughts are serving you, and not the other way around. So quite often we've got these fears and we've got these worries, and and so we kind of delve into that, and it becomes bigger and it mushrooms, and then we start making decisions on that. Whereas you say, listen, I'm very disciplined in how I think about things. You got to be very positive, obviously, and positive energy attracts positive energy. I And I'm a firm believer, if you put that positive energy out there, then that attracts positive energy. I mean, that story about uh, speaking words of love to water, and then you freeze it, and you've got the beautiful crystals, and then you talk back to the water, and you freeze it, and it's got this disorientated patterns. Is that
Uh-huh.
a phenomenon that I'm talking about? Putting out positive energy. Um, uh, Dale Carnegie wrote a beautiful book about how to influence people, make friends, and
Mm,
so forth. Uh, and you see it in people very quickly, and with your employees, if you've got positivity uh, and inspiring actions and words,
mm,
then that shows very quickly on that side.
mm,
Uh, if the things goes wrong and you get anxious and you say, "Who did this?" then that's the natural reaction, right? But that doesn't always grow the business to where you want to. Uh, so mental discipline you really learn during these expeditions, which you have to bring home and employ in your business. Um, yeah,
okay.
these lessons that you learn about stick with the program, you know.
Mm,
So we're going to Cayenne. You're not going to turn off because of bad conditions and then go to some place in Brazil where you're going to have bigger problems. Stick to the program uh, and and let your goals drive you
mm,
um, instead of let the world drive you and let your negative thoughts drive you. Let
mm,
your goals drive you.
mm.
Uh, that's very very key questions in the business world.
But something that comes out quite strongly is your goal to get to Cayenne. And I think a lot of the times in business, it's sort of in Afrikaans, we talk about a mogetroffen, where you don't necessarily have a specific goal, you just see how it flows. But without that goal, without having that end destination, you cannot plot your route.
Yeah, yeah. So defining your goals is obviously one of the most important things in life. So I firmly believe that uh, we need to let ourselves drive by greatness within ourselves and greatness in the world. How do we contribute to the world? And so when you have got goals, you need to align those goals to that. Um,
Mm,
and for each person, that is different. When I took on this expedition, I said, number one, I want to go and broaden my mind. I want to really see the world once again from a different perspective. Learn, learn from the fishes, learn from the sea, learn from big philosophers that talk to me via Audible while I'm rowing.
mm-hmm,
And so that was the most important goal. Yes, I wanted to get to Cayenne, but what did I want to achieve by getting across the ocean to Cayenne? There was
yeah.
another very important goal of mine. I wanted to be the fastest man across the Atlantic, so I wanted to break the human powered Atlantic crossing record. Extremely coveted record. And many guys take a big portion of their lives in order to get this record. And I was well within reach of the record. Uh, the boat that I had, the vessel that I had, was probably my biggest tool because it was fast. Um, it's a narrow little boat, 1 meter wide, where the normal vessels the guys row in is about 1 meter 40, 1 meter 50, which that just makes a world's difference. As they go in luxury. This thing is all but luxury. You've got 3 places for your feet to stand on the cockpit. It is
Wow.
really very uncomfortable, but it's fast.
Mm.
I had other things that went for me. Good navigation, working with currents. I've got good data about currents and winds. I've got a very, very effective row mechanism. So the row mechanism drives a propeller in the bottom of the boat, way more efficient than oars. So I was in line to break this record, and I did everything to do that. After 7 days into the expedition, the one component that I didn't have a spare of broke. It was a drive shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And I ordered the drive shaft spare, but it didn't arrive in time, and I thought it's fine, how can the drive shaft break? It did break. And then I had to make a decision very quickly. You can cry about your goal that you didn't achieve, because at that stage I had to let go of my goal to break this record. This is a big goal, but it wasn't my biggest goal.
Mm.
So I had to let go. I had to say, now we're changing priorities here. We change the goal. We focus really just on what we've got.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to take a paddle and I had to paddle it again. Make some changes to the boat, and I paddled it all the way to the finish in a very good time. 37 days. I needed 6 days. There was other things that went wrong. My navigation skills. That was 3 days.
Uh-huh.
Um, certain resistances in the boat that um, that was there. Too much weight and other uh, mollusks that grew onto the boat that I didn't manage well. Uh, there was another 2 days in there. So it was well within reach, but I needed to shift, move the goalpost a little bit. I need to say my objective, my goals is going to move. So I had to make that move. It was reality dictated that
Mm-hmm.
it's just impossible at that stage to go for something unattainable.
Mm.
And when I finished at the end, I got the big prize. I wanted to, I got back as a liberated person, and I set my entire uh, frame of reference and mental equilibrium. I brought that back
Okay.
to where I wanted it to be. So, and after all, inspiring people.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
that I was blessed with that. I had a great following, and I had great media coverage, and so I think there's a lot of people uh, that that got something out of that. So yeah, I was a happy man at the end.
You've also raised funds for Doors of Hope.
Yeah.
How did that go?
So very well. So Door of Hope, just very quickly background on them. They look after abandoned babies. We've got a massive problem in this country. We're sitting daily with dozens of babies that dies because of abandonment. Um, it perhaps speaks to a broken set of morals in this
Mm.
country, broken uh, value uh, chart that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big story there, but the effect is that, you know, social issues like baby abandonment is big in South Africa. And, you know, the difference that the Door of Hope makes is to take a baby that was going to die, you know, and now they take it to adoption. And most of the adopted babies, they are future graduates. So massive difference, you know,
Mm.
that it makes to people's lives. So I said, just this is a fantastic um, uh, beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at different guys in that space, but Doors of Hope were doing the best job. So we
Okay.
set target 200,000. Through the website, we did 170, but I did a black tie gala dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we did probably 70,000 there. There's different pledges that came from different avenues that went directly to the Door of Hope. So we probably over 300,000 at this stage. So it was all in all a very good success.
Wow. And lots of PR, extra PR for Door of Hope,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which
that
is
was
always
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah, for them it was incredible PR. I think that was, you know, that was probably the biggest factor for them. The PR that they received out of this was massive, you know. So
Mm. Mm.
I did probably 10 TV interviews, lots of radio interviews, newspaper, probably 15 articles. So they, you know, they got great exposure out of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Gerard, as an entrepreneur, because this is essentially an entrepreneur podcast, um, if you could do anything different, if you were 20 years old and you could make any change, what would that be?
No, I would have started. I would have started earlier, being entrepreneur. Uh, you would remember right after varsity, I had a business in George called
Mm-hmm.
Toverkwas. It was just painting contracting. It wasn't massively successful, and I thought I'll have to use my engineering degree to you know, just get some engineering exposure, which was right. But I then stuck it out for probably 15 years before I went into my own business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you build a business, it takes a long time to build this thing, you know, and some of these things just take time. And if you
Mm.
started earlier in your life, you know, you would have been further. So no regrets, but some of my very energetic years I spent working for other companies and, you know, telling banks how to run their business, and they didn't listen in any way. So why did I do it?
Okay. I'd like to come back to you, say, in your energetic days, but it sounds like you still have lots and lots of energy left.
uh, so, you know, they say, uh, they always said to me, you know, it's like life is like a bicycle ride. You know, it's uphill until you get 50, and then from 50 you hit straight road, level road, and then from 60 it's getting downhill. But guess what? When I got 50, the incline got steeper, way
Mm-hmm.
steeper. And so, you know, I'm thoroughly believing I'm just starting to get momentum. So that's part of, you know, that's part of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's part of energy, and the way that you feel if you're physically low on energy and you're physically not feeling great, and it's very difficult to pump energy into business. It's very difficult to make positive decisions. It's very difficult to feel positive and to make people around you feel positive.
Mm. If you are not
So
positive.
physical health is massive. That's one of the only real assets that we've got.
Mm. Fantastic. Gerhard, do you ever get time to read? Or do you just listen to audios?
I like Audible because you can listen while you're driving and so forth. But I like reading. I like reading. Yeah, there's some very interesting
Any
books that
specific books?
yeah, but there's a couple of books that I've done on this expedition. The one that I liked that's relevant today is William McCaskill. What do we owe the future? Wonderful philosopher, and so um, talks about what is your contribution to this world, and
Mm-hmm.
then how is this world behaving going forward. Uh, he says that Homo sapiens sapiens must think as a race. We must think in terms of billions of years, whereas lots of people think of the Homo sapiens sapiens as something with a very short lifespan because we're self-destructive.
Mm-hmm.
But we gotta get out of that mind frame. We gotta get into a mind frame of we're doing very well. The world is a much friendlier place than 100 years. It's a much better place to live in than 100 years. So we're not doing badly, but
Mm.
we've got limited time uh, to get to a place where we are really sustainable. So I think sustainability is a very relevant topic in
Mm.
all businesses today. I'm for that matter. I'm
Absolutely.
in sustainability business. So I really like that. Then uh, something total away from business that's relevant today is the history of Jerusalem by Simon Montefiore, and it just talks about the brutal history of Jerusalem. The wars that's been fought in Jerusalem, hundreds of wars. It's a very interesting place. And now today, once again,
Uh-huh.
we've got war there. It's so that was just from a side note. That was interesting.
Okay. If you had any advice for entrepreneurs that want to combine their love for adventure with business, what would it be?
Uh, Follow your dreams. Do do what you want to do because your days are counted. Might be 140 years, but do what you want to do because when you get to the place where you don't have the physical abilities, you're going to be your basket is going to be slightly empty.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do uh, expeditions, there is nothing more rewarding in life than doing an expedition. Might it be a bicycle tour for a week? Might it be the Freedom Challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Or walking the Camino Trail? Um, you got to set your targets for that and do your adventures in life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is for South African entrepreneurs in general. Uh, technology. Uh, we have to operate outside of the borders of South Africa. The only way that we can do that is to be more clever than the rest of the world. And so we got to
Mm-hmm.
employ. technology. And I think everybody agrees that AI is changing everything. The world was one of the biggest threats to Homo sapiens today is stagnation. And it's contrary to what we believe, because we think, oh, we develop so fast, but that's the truth is we stagnation is a great threat to us, and AI turns that around, and that's really going to, in many ways, I believe, is going to play a major role uh, in changing technology and driving technology in future. And us as South African entrepreneurs needs to get our confidence back and go and play in the international arena. We've got unfortunately, the reality is the South African economy is a stagnating beast. So growing inside a stagnating economy is difficult. In a growing economy like Australia, that's easier. So it's not difficult. It's not easy for South African entrepreneurs. But the one key that we've got is technology to open those big coffers that we've got internationally. And we've got incredible examples in South Africa of businesses that's gone out internationally and competed internationally and dominated certain market sectors. So we know it can be done.
Well, I think if you can row over the Atlantic Ocean, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And I suppose also I love your concept of the economy of faith. In the end, if you have your economy of faith, the world is your oyster.
Exactly. Yeah.
What an insane testimony of grit, determination, and faith. But it makes me wonder, what would you do to live your life to the maximum? What would be your biggest goal that you still want to achieve? And what are you planning to do about it? Please share your crazy goals with us in the comments below. The winner might just walk away with a year's subscription of an Adventures Mission membership, where you will receive online training, online coaching, and a whole lot more to ensure that you keep your business adventures going. But until we meet again, don't forget to be awesome.